Hi, my name is Nancy McGee, San Mateo County Superintendent of Schools. Today, you're going to get an inside look at the world of biotechnology and health sciences in San Mateo County. We're going to start by taking a tour of some of our exceptional biotechnology and health sciences CTE programs, and then we'll hear from real-world industry experts who will provide valuable insight into the opportunities, wages, and skills needed for success in a career in the biotechnology and health sciences industry. These CTE pathways provide students with the educational opportunities needed to prepare them for success in careers in the Biotechnology and Health Careers Academy. And now, without further ado, let's take an inside look into some of our fabulous CTE programs.
Well, it's different than most classes because in biology and in physics, we're all learning from the textbook and there are some labs. But in this class, we are mostly hands-on and we learn through visual and seeing the teacher do it, than looking at a book and reading all of what needs to be done.
My name is Stephanie Spencer and I teach at Sequoia High School. The courses that I teach are career technical education courses in the Health Career Academy. So I teach sophomore Introduction to Health Professions and senior Medical Clinical 2, which is a continuation of Greg Schmidt's Medical Clinical 1 class for the juniors.
This class, Medical Clinical Year 2, is more focused on hands-on CPR, focusing on how to learn certain aspects that you can use to get first response kind of training.
Students should be interested in jobs in this area because this is an ever-growing field. There are new technologies, especially in Silicon Valley and in California, where we are very health conscious. And it's important for us to set a model and a precedent for the rest of the school to be health conscious. We are able to pull in a lot of current professionals and create networking opportunities for students.
I think being in a close-knit group like this, you kind of get to all learn it together and kind of all get to develop skills that will help you in the future. Throughout this class, there's a lot of interview process kind of questions, and there's a lot of debates and learning other people's opinions and learning how to be in a team and work as a group.
So one of the beautiful things about career technical education is that the content that we learn is applicable beyond the classroom. It's specifically for vocations, but especially in this day and age where applicants for jobs are required to have on-the-job training. Getting that on-the-job training in a high school setting where they're going to show up anyway if they want to complete their K through 12 education it's amazing because these students will graduate with hands-on skills. Even if it's only vital signs that they're going to learn, that's great. I think Health Career Academy is really wonderful because it applies to everybody, whether they're going to embark on a career in health after high school or not, because everyone will be a patient if they haven't already been one.
For hard skills, we've learned how to do CPR on an adult and also a child. Through that, we had a week or two intro, and we have these handbooks where we learn just reading first, and then we also put it into action. We had to record several videos of us doing CPR on both adults and children, so it was very hands-on.
Skills needed to come into the Health Career Academy is really just a passion for learning and an interest in health. Given these unprecedented times, I believe that most of the student population has an ear towards health. There's been a lot of talk about vaccinations, immunizations, and that alone is enough of a hook for us to generate an interest among students. There are certifications that are offered in the CTE pathways here at Sequoia and the Health Careers Academy. We focus mainly on CPR, first aid, AED, concussion testing. In the junior year, they do CERT training, so Community Emergency Response Team. We are working on some cool things in dentistry and nutrition, and we're always open to new ideas.
We're able to be creative in this class specifically because Mrs. Spencer lets us take a non-traditional route to school. In her class specifically, we don't take any tests. We often have a lot of just class discussion, so a lot of listening and speaking to each other rather than like reading a book and writing, because that kind of goes in through one ear and out the other. Mrs. Spencer is awesome. We all love her. She definitely cares for us like her kids, so it's definitely a different relationship than you might have with other teachers, but she definitely keeps it professional, responsible, but we definitely know that she cares about us.
I would tell a student who isn't sure about this class that even if they aren't interested in going into like a health profession, to take the class, because honestly it's useful skills that even if you're not in a health careers path, it's definitely useful material, and you get a close group and an amazing teacher.
So my Biotech 3-4 class is really fun. I took 1-2 last year during the pandemic, but being here I get to have a lot of fun trying new labs here in the Biotech garage. And yeah, we get to have a lot of fun trying new labs and experimenting.
My name is Dr. Liz Beans. I am the Curriculum Instruction Specialist for Secondary Science and Biotechnology in South San Francisco Unified School District. I came to this position after being a chemistry teacher and also after doing my doctoral research in chemistry at Stanford, as well as a few years working in the biotechnology industry.
My name is Rocky Ng. I'm a teacher at South San Francisco High School. I teach biotechnology 1-2 and 3-4.
My name is Shree Cohen. I work at South San Francisco High School and I teach biotechnology 3-4.
Well, for South San Francisco particularly, it's the birthplace of biotechnology and a hub of biotechnology worldwide. And for our students, it's an expensive place to live. If they want to continue to be a part of the community in South San Francisco, if they want to continue living where they've grown up, they're going to need jobs that can help them support, themselves and their loved ones in this area. And the biotech industry is a really fantastic place to get those jobs that enable them to stay within their community.
This class is different from other classes because it's really a combination of science, math, biology, chemistry. It's really everything balled together and requires a lot of effort to put in, but it's really worth it since you gain a lot of skills.
So students should be interested in this field of work because South San Francisco students, they are in the birthplace of biotechnology. So having them stay at home and work locally would be ideal, so they don't have to move away from the Bay Area. The second thing is that biotech industry also pays fairly well, and so they could be financially stable in the future. And I think the third thing is that the students can really learn about, it's not just about the labs and how we can create something, a product, medicine, drugs, or even biotechnology applications like environmental biotech, or how we can use biotechnology to benefit human society.
In this class, we do a lot of labs. We learn more stuff about biotechnology that is put into the real world, like genetic engineering, GMO.
So all of our students in the South San Francisco Biotech program are dual enrolled at Skyline Community College. And they, depending on how many years of biotech they take, can leave our program with anywhere from 2 to, I believe it's 6 units of dual enrollment credit.
A day in my class looks like a pre-lab for the students, so we get introduced to materials, and then they're going to be in a lab most of the time for about 2 to 3 class periods, which are on block schedule. And then after that, they will be doing a post-lab and writing their analysis and observing what their results were. And then they're gonna usually tweak the lab again and run the lab again so they could be designing their own lab for the future in the spring.
One of my favorite projects that we've done so far is actually taking DNA out of corn products. So I took home some Doritos and I brought it here, and I even got to see what the DNA looks like, which was really cool.
For the hard skills, the technical skills, they learn about cell culture and in spectrophotometry and solutions making, that's a big one. DNA isolation. So all of the common skills that are used in biotechnology industry, we learn the basics.
I feel prepared to go into the workforce because since this class is really fast, you have to really keep up with the pace, like making sure you're doing your reading, making sure you're doing your pre-labs, making sure that you're doing everything safe in the lab, and making sure that everything's organized. So if I were to be in the workforce right now, I would definitely be prepared because I know how to do each and every one of those steps because of this class.
Soft skills are going to be how to collaborate with people and how to do presentations. Those are the basic soft skills that the students will learn. They change lab partners every lab that we have in this class, so you get to learn to work with different types of personalities.
This class definitely requires you to be creative since there's a lot of improvisation necessary since it's a mostly hands-on class. Anything can really go wrong at any second, so you have to be prepared and you really have to do something that doesn't follow the protocol.
I think a lot of students think about this class as they have to be good at science to take it, but they really don't need to, and everyone started a blank canvas, and that's the fun part where I can help them understand biotech is not just about learning science, it's also about business, sales, marketing, and having those soft skills, communicating, and as well as the technical skills, like the lab ones.
My teacher, Mr. Ng, for Biotech 5-6, this is the second time I've had him since I've had him in Biotech 1-2 as well. He's a very passionate individual. He loves teaching biotechnology and is very dedicated to it. He can definitely adapt to any changes that are made within the day since a lot of things can usually go wrong. But he is able to overcome those challenges and help us with whatever we need.
My favorite part about my job is just seeing in their eyes when they complete a lab and they're like, oh my gosh, I did this, and being so excited. They're also so excited when they could figure out the results. You can see the gears turning in their head trying to connect the dots and then finding the results and they're like, I understand. It's probably one of the best parts of this job.
Miss Cohen, it's my first time having her, so she's a really fun teacher. So every time I walk into that class, I feel like a burst of energy because of how enthusiastic she is about biotech.
If you're interested, just go for it. Listen to that gut feeling because really biotech is a great way to meet new people and learn new skills. And hey, you might be a biotechnician when you get older.
My name is Justin Williams. I am a pediatric resident and I work in healthcare. I think you should be interested in jobs in healthcare because for a number of reasons. One, there's always going to be jobs. That's really important when you're thinking about the careers that you want. Two, you don't always have to be a person who practices healthcare. So there are nurses, there are physicians, there are pharmacists who have practiced in healthcare for a little while, and then they've transitioned to something like education or public health. So there's all this sort of latitude in what you can do with your job. And three, I think that if you're someone who's kind of interested in continuing to challenge yourself, it's a great job for that. There's never any stale days, it doesn't ever get stagnant. You're always kind of thinking about what the next thing, what the next challenge comes. So some of the things that got me interested in working in healthcare were growing up in Oakland, seeing a lot of people who, some of my friends who I grew up with, who had like chronic illnesses, who had social circumstances that were really challenging. And then like some illnesses that kind of run in my family, and really trying to get an understanding for myself what this meant. And so this, when I went to college, I decided that I wanted to initially major in psychology, but then switched over to wanting to study more of healthcare and health sciences, just so I can bring some of that information back to my community and help to educate people on sort of what their conditions are, what are the things that they need to be working on, and how they can best manage their health going forward. So as a resident, we don't really have typical work days. We can be in any of a number of different situations. So starting in a couple of weeks, I will be in the pediatric ICU, which are the kids who require more monitoring and more intensive care. But then sometimes I'm on the pediatric general inpatient unit where there are kids who don't need quite as much care, but they need to be in the hospital. Sometimes I'm in urgent care, sometimes I'm in a primary care clinic, sometimes I'm in a specialty clinic. And so you kind of have to wake up and be ready for whatever the day throws at you. some of the most common misconceptions. One big thing that stands out to me is that you need to be a doctor in order to make a difference in healthcare. I chose this route. I'm very happy to be a doctor. I love working with kids, and being a pediatrician has always been a dream of mine. But that is a certain role that someone plays on the team. So I'm putting in a lot of orders and doing a lot of like calculations and a lot of the sort of thinking behind the decisions that are being made. And there are the pharmacists on the team who are really reviewing all of the medications, making sure that we're not giving someone something that's interacting with another medication or it's the right dose. We have nurses who are administering things, who are by the bedside, who have more of that personal connection with patients. There are techs, there are social workers, there are so many other people in healthcare that make this entire machine go. I think that you don't have to be a doctor to make a difference in someone's life in a healthcare setting. So some of the top skills that people are looking for, they're looking for someone who is resourceful and independent. So if a problem comes up, you know, it's okay to ask questions. We always encourage people to ask questions, but are you able to look up things on your own? Are you able to kind of figure out your way through a problem? And it's not that you have to have the perfect right answer, but are you kind of thinking in that way? The other things that we like to think about are how comprehensive do you think of patients? So if someone comes in, say, with an asthma attack, you want to make sure that you're thinking not just in terms of like what is their medication, but what are their triggers, what are the things that they're experiencing at home, what are some of the social circumstances surrounding their asthma attack, so that way when they come into the hospital, it's not just, oh, we're treating this one disease. It's like we want to make sure that we're treating this and we're sending you out into the world in a better position than you were when you first came in here. So it's kind of taking in that bigger picture and thinking of solutions for people as they go forward. If you're not the best student, there are ways to get into healthcare. So for me, I graduated from undergrad with a pretty decent GPA, but I'm not a standardized test taker at all. Standardized tests are not my jam. And so I ended up doing a post-bac program after undergrad, which took a year, and they helped me with my MCAT scores, which is the standardized test you have to take in order to get into medical school. And so if you're someone who is like taking the SAT and you're like, the SAT is not easy for me, it's a bit of a challenge, don't let that be a deterrent to you getting to the goals that you want, because they don't determine how well you will be at a particular job. They're really set up to weed out certain people. So don't let that stand in your way. I would say reflect on it. Think about it. What are the reasons that you want to do it? Don't do it for the money. There's so many jobs that you could take and make a six-figure salary and be pretty well off. I would say know that you want to go into it knowing that it's going to be challenging, knowing that the training process is pretty rigorous, and being dedicated to making it to the other side.
Hello, my name is Leslie Cruz and I'm Associate Director of Regulatory Affairs at Natera. The main part of my job is working with regulatory agencies around the world to get Natera's products registered in those countries. An example is FDA in the United States. My background, in order to be in regulatory affairs, I have a PhD in chemistry and biology. So I spent 16 years in the laboratory before going into regulatory affairs. My typical workday entails quite a few meetings with all the different departments, depending on the project. I will spend somewhere between 50 and 70% of my day in meetings, and then the rest of it working on the various documentation or what I need to work on to meet our project goals. So there is kind of like 50-50%, work on a computer, and then 50% working directly with people discussing our various projects. There are other careers that you can have in biotechnology that are beyond being in the laboratory. You can be in marketing or sales. You can be in IT or HR. Basically any department at the companies, as long as you have that background in science to understand what's going on, you can really build your career in any department at a biotechnology company. Not just the laboratory. I feel like there's a misconception that working in the lab may be boring, or it may be, but I find it very exciting. Like, there's a lot of things always going on in the lab, and a lot of different projects and people working in the lab, especially in industry where it's very much a team effort to get projects done. So it isn't just one person sitting at a lab bench, working by themselves. There really is a collaborative environment, and I think that really, it really works in the lab, and it's not boring. So working in biotechnology, especially Natera, our tests really help families, get the decisions that they need for their health care. That being, for pregnancy or for cancer or for organ transplantation, and these really impact these patients' lives. So working in biotech really has, for me, really has purpose, and we are affecting patients. We are helping them with their life decisions.
On behalf of San Mateo County Office of Education's Career Technical Education Programs, I want to thank you for joining us today. Students and families can learn more about biotechnology and health sciences pathway courses at smcoe.org/CTE. Thank you for exploring the world of career technical education.